Velkommen til DSA's YouTube-profil. Mit navn er Rasmus Bogetoft, og vi skal i dag tale med Rebekah Westphal, som vil introducere os for ansøgningsproceduren ved Yale University, ligesom hun vil give os nogle specifikke råd til, hvad man som dansk studerende kan gøre for at brænde igennem med sin ansøgning.
My name is Rebekah Westphal. I'm the Director of International Missions for Yale College, and I personally handle all the applications that come to Yale College from Europe and also sub-Saharan Africa. In general, when we think about an application to Yale, first of all, I think the most important thing is you realise that you're not applying to a specific department. You're simply applying to Yale College. We offer a liberal arts education here, and we don't ask students to declare their major of study until the end of their second year. So when students apply here, they're not applying for a specific program, they're simply sending their application to Yale College. We receive a fair number of applications from Scandinavia, from Denmark in particular, probably in the range of 10 to 20 every year. We could maybe do with some more, so if you're thinking about applying, please try. When we think about what we're looking for in an application, there are a number of pieces in an application. Obviously, the most important thing is going to be your academic work. And this means your academic work actually in Denmark, at your school, rather than the SATs or the ACT or something like that. Well, those are considered a part of the academic evaluation. They are a small part. We pay very close attention to the work that you've been doing in school, really for the past 4 years before you apply to Yale. Overall, we look to see how a student is going to take advantage of what Yale offers, and then how are they going to give back and contribute to the community while they're here as students. And there are several ways in which we can gather this information. Teacher recommendations are very important. The written essay is very important. We have alumni interviewers in Denmark. We ask for information about extracurriculars, and of course we ask for information about your transcript, the grades that you have, and also the subjects that you've been taking. So we call it a holistic evaluation process, and we find that this is very successful in bringing the kind of students who we feel would really fit into the Yale community and take advantage of what we have here. In particular, one of the things when we're looking at an application that we want to pay close attention to is the context from which you're applying. So the context of the school, the context of your background even, of the country as a whole. And so it's very, very helpful when a student can make sure we have a full picture of that context. So, for example, if your school has never sent an applicant to a US university before, it's usually a good idea to fill out a full profile of the school, and your counsellor or your head of school can usually do this to give us some sense of the way that the school operates, the resources available for students and that kind of thing. I think it's also very helpful, and I'm not just talking about Yale here, but any school that you apply to in the US, to indicate how the curriculum works. And I've visited Denmark before. I understand how the national exams work and the curriculum, and most applicants that we take from Denmark are going to be receiving scores of 10, 12 on their final exams. But for other schools, they may not be that familiar with the Danish schooling system. So the more context you can provide, the better. So make sure that you do that accurately. So with respect to teacher recommendations, we ask for 2. They should be from what we call academic teachers, so from core subjects, math, English, language, science, etc. And we don't mind which teacher writes them. It doesn't have to be related to your declared major of study. It can be a teacher who just knows you very, very well, because we ask for a fair amount of detail from your teachers. We want to know about how you are as a student, your academic profile, but then we also want to have a good sense about you as a person and the way in which you operate in the classroom. Have you gone above and beyond the curriculum? Do you take time to read outside of class? How timely are you with assignments? Things like this. We also ask teachers to tell us about your interactions with others. We're very interested in hearing about how you interact with your peers and also with other faculty and staff in the school. So find teachers who know you really well. Find teachers who like you. I know that sounds obvious, but it's important. And find teachers who can actually write recommendations with some detail, because those are the kind of recommendations which are really going to help us evaluate you as a student and as a person. The third recommendation will come from the equivalent of your guidance counsellor. And this could be a head teacher, it could be a tutor, but someone who has had a sort of overall academic advising role during your school career. So, and you know who that person is. This recommendation should really be a summary of your time in the school, an academic summary, while also offering us some details on involvement in extracurriculars and other things in the community. Your guidance counsellor can also give us details of any situations which may have affected you during your time in school and may have affected your grades, whether that's some family issues or illness or other things. So the guidance counsellor reference can also be extremely helpful in providing context to your particular situation. With respect to extracurriculars, this is something that I think a lot of international students, they do things out of sight of school, but they don't necessarily think that universities are going to be interested in what they do. Well, here in the US and definitely at Yale, we're very interested to hear about how you spend your time outside of the classroom. And this could be sports, it could be music, it could be dance, theatre, political groups, religious organisations, community service, cultural groups. It could be anything like that. Debate, Model United Nations. We just want to know where you spend your time. We love to hear about the things that you love doing, and we're very interested not so much in the quantity of things, but more the quality of your involvement. So think about that, and don't feel that you need to list 20 things that you do. We're really just interested in your core activities, because it helps us see what kind of student we're bringing to the Yale community. We want to know how you will contribute to the Yale community here, and your involvement in whatever extracurriculars you do can help us see that. In the Yale application, there are 2 essays which you will have to write, and both are about 500 words long, so they're quite short. There's one on the common application, which will be sent to however many universities you apply through the common application. And then for each university, there's usually also a supplement, which will sometimes require an additional piece of writing. And for Yale, it's an essay where we simply ask you if there's anything else you would like to tell us, so that we get a better picture of who you are. And I know that sounds vague, but really we don't mind what you write about. It's much more about how you write about that topic. So I've had students write about, for example, one young man last year wrote about his love of Manchester United. That's all he wrote about. And it was a very effective piece because it gave me a great idea about one of the things that he loves. He goes to football matches as often as he can with his dad. And it gave me a picture of him outside of all the other pieces in the application. So it was a great essay, very, very genuine. Another young woman a few years ago wrote about the relationship that she has with her brother, and very, very straightforward, but it was basically how when they were younger they really didn't get on together, and as they've grown older they've become quite close friends. And it was so thoughtfully written, it was very genuine, it gave me a good idea of who this young woman was, and again, what kind of person she would be in the Yale community. So I think my best advice to you regarding these essays is find something that when you start writing about it, it comes easily to you. Write with a thoughtful and genuine voice. Don't try and overdo it and fill it with words that you think might impress us. I think all we want to do is hear your voice and just learn more about you. So approach the essays in that way. I think essays also can sometimes be funny, and if you're funny, you can go ahead and write an essay like that, and if you're not funny, this is really not the time to try. So, you know, think carefully about what you're going to write about, but then the most important thing is that you just write in a very authentic way and present yourselves to us as sort of openly as possible. We use these essays a great deal in admissions committees here. They prove to be very, very useful in separating students. And overall in the application process, that's really what we're trying to do, because about 80% or more of our applicants are academically qualified to come here, and that includes international students. So what we're trying to do is find students who meet that sort of foundation, that academic foundation, but then to separate them, we pay close attention to all the other pieces in the application, the teacher recommendations, the extracurriculars, the essays, the interview, etc., to really separate out the students who we feel will be the strongest and best fit for the Yale community. So as part of our application process, we do have an interview process, and this is not a required part. But if you receive a call from an alum, a Yale alum, you should obviously say yes, I will do the interview. And this is a very, very informal interview. It's just a conversation about you and about your interests and about the things that you do in your spare time and what you think you might bring to the Yale community. But really, again, it's just a way for us to get to know you personally, to understand how you might fit into the Yale community. So the interviews can take place in cafes, in libraries, in galleries, anywhere that's convenient for you and your interviewer. But again, they are very, very informal, and the Yale alums are always very happy and willing to do these and give us, you know, as much information as possible about you afterwards. Yale offers something called a need-blind admissions process, which means that when we evaluate your application to the university, we do not pay attention to your financial circumstances. There are a few universities that do this for international students, but not many, and it's called a need-blind admissions process. So that's a term that you should become familiar with. A need-based financial aid is what we offer. So if you are admitted to the university, we offer need-based financial aid based on the annual income of your family and assets and things like that. And we offer 100% of demonstrated need for all 4 years at Yale. This is in the form of scholarship. It's not in the form of loans. So if you receive financial aid from Yale, you do not have to pay it back. A need-blind, need-based financial aid process is one of the most generous in the country, in fact, and Yale spent about $120 million on financial aid for its undergraduates last year. So one of the things that we have tried to do is make Yale accessible to the students from all over the world who deserve to be here based on academic and personal promise. And so our financial aid really does reflect that.
Mange tak til Rebekah Westphal, fordi hun tog sig tid til at tale med os og dele ud af hendes gode råd. Hvis I har fået blod på tanden, kan I besøge Yale Admissions hjemmeside, ligesom I kan gå ind på vores hjemmeside dsabroad.dk og søge rådgivning. Links til begge er i beskrivelsen. Husk at like videoen, subscribe til vores kanal, hvis I gerne vil se flere videoer om studielivet uden for Danmarks grænser.